Stick to the end for the best comments. You have been visited by Smiley Doggo. Subscribe, and you will feel good for doing a good deed. What was your oh shit my life is over my parents are gonna kill me moment you had as a child/teen? I put my cheap gel pens in a microwave when I was 11 because they wouldn't work, and my teacher told me that it's because the ink has frozen. Let's say I had to work extra that summer so I could get a new microwave. First time ever getting drunk, 14 years old. Had a bottle of rum and 4 Mike Hard lemonades all mixed into a big jug. Came home that night. My mom just looked at me and knew. She didn't get mad. She just said, okay Corey, let's go to bed. It's alright. Let's go. I went to bed. The next day she made me go to school on that ridiculous hangover. That was my punishment. But she always said to me later in life, what's the point in me yelling at you? You were drunk. There's absolutely nothing that I can do. For a month I kept taking the internet cord from my parents' room and running it to the living room, plugging it in the TV box. I was washing the dishes when my dad started reading out the porn titles on the bill. Bro, I got you beat. My 14-year-old ass came skipping into the computer room happy as a clam one night to see my father staring at the erotic sex story I had written about my religion teacher. Yeah. I basically yipped in fear and went white, and he looked around at me and promptly lost his fucking shit laughing. I ran away to my room as fast as I could and hid in my bed until the next day. I was terrified that he was gonna tell my mom and super embarrassed. That was 10 years ago, and he's never mentioned it again. As a 2000s kid, stories like these always fascinate me. Same. We were there, but not actually there. Every single day my mom told me to be careful near the frozen pond next to our house. One day enough snow melted in order for my friends and I to play soccer in the field next to the pond. As you can guess, at one point the ball ended up dead center in the middle of the pond on the ice. My child brain figured if I could throw a stick on the ice, it was safe to walk on. So after making sure the ice was stable by throwing not 1 but 2 sticks, I started my walk to get the ball. It was like a scene from a movie. I reached the center and the second I picked up the ball and attempted to turn around, I fell straight through the ice and went under. I had to break the ice the entire way back to shore and had my clothes dried at a friend's house a few blocks away. By the time I got there I thought I was on my deathbed, but I could never tell my mom I was dumb enough to go out there, or she would have probably killed me. I'm now 26 and have still never told my parents I did that, lol. This story takes place in the mid-90s. I was 16. Skipping school out fucking around in my car with friends. Took a turn too fast and put the car in a ditch. We got the car out of the ditch with the help of a passerby. Not a scratch on it by some fucking miracle. Get home and dad asks, so how was school? In a way that told me he knew full well I wasn't at school. If there is one thing my father instilled in me, it is this: no matter how bad you fuck up, lying about it will only make it worse. Own up, take your punishment, and don't do it again. So I told him exactly what happened. He couldn't really take the car away. I'd purchased it from him for full trade-in value, out of money I'd saved from working at a pizza joint. But he found other ways to make my life a living hell for a few months after that. Come to find out, the good Samaritan who helped us out of the ditch was a coworker of my dad who recognized the car and had called dad to let him know about my adventures. Haha, I saw a family member at a red light once when I was skipping school. He asked me why I wasn't in school and I said, "You never saw me," and drove away. He never told my parents. Thanks, Leo. I was 17. Drove my girlfriend home from school. We ended up in the shower together. Just as we turned off the water and she was stepping out, we hear her dad open the front door of the house. Of course my truck is in the driveway, so he knows I'm there, but I'm nowhere else in the house obviously. My short life flashed before my eyes. He came stomping down the hallway and banged on the bathroom door. My girlfriend, wrapped in a towel, answered the door and lied her ass off. Spanks is down the street at one of our friends' house. I told him I'd call when I was out of the shower. Meanwhile, I'm standing frozen and shriveled in the shower behind the curtain preparing to meet the hereafter. Married that girl. Been together 26 years. Edit. Obligatory gold thanks. Lol. This blew up. I also replied to a few questions below, including how I got out of the predicament. Also, my wife is a preacher's kid. Her dad was one of my 2 pastors growing up. I had something similar happen when I was 15. My parents were going out for the night, so this seemed to be the perfect opportunity for my boyfriend and my virgin self to do it. We were in the family room, naked and getting ready to go upstairs to my room, when we heard the garage door open. 2 people never moved so fast. We grabbed our clothes and flew upstairs. We sat in my room like shit. Now what? I decided to get dressed and go down to nonchalantly find out what happened. My dad was getting a migraine, so they came home early. My BF was 15 too, so there wasn't a car involved to give us away. He lived in the same development a few blocks away. He walked to my house. My parents went to bed, so once we were sure imminent death was not upon us, we picked up where we left off. I wouldn't change a thing about that night. It was so amazing and special. The sneakiness of it all added another dimension. Unfortunately, my BF had to jump out my bedroom window to leave. Our dog took a hard no on him leaving the conventional way, lol. But he was able to get onto the portico over the front door, then jump off that. When I was 12, we were visiting my mom's family for Christmas and staying at my aunt's house like we usually did. Behind her house was a creek that ran through most of the neighborhood. This particular year, it had been really cold and there was snow at least 6 inches deep in most places. I was playing out in the snow and looked back at the creek and saw some really weird icicles that I wanted to get a closer look at. I crossed a fallen log to get to the opposite side of the creek, facing the back of my aunt's house, and walked along the bank looking at the ice. Basically the creek was flowing and not frozen, but there was a shelf that had frozen above it, and the ice hanging from it had formed into teardrop shapes instead of the typical spikes I was used to seeing. As I walked, I neglected to see a patch of ice on the bank in front of me and stepped on it with my full weight. I slipped and slid fully into the creek, which was way deeper than I had anticipated. I was wearing a winter coat, jeans, and insulated boots, all of which became incredibly heavy when they got wet. I was up to my armpits, trying desperately to stay afloat in freezing cold water and heavy clothes. My only thought was, my mom is going to be so pissed. Obviously I survived that incident. I pulled myself out, stumbled up the bank to a building that I thought was a YMCA and turned out to actually be a fire station. They called my mom. She came to get me. No harm, no foul, and I was not in any trouble, although my entire family still mocks me and asks if I'd like to go for a swim every Christmas. When I was 6, I spilled grape juice on the tan carpet in the living room. I put a pillow over it, laid on the pillow, and vowed that I would stay there the rest of my life, so my parents would never find out. I lasted about 45 minutes. My mom was more upset that I got grape juice on the pillow rather than the carpet. When I was 28, I spilled a gallon of house paint on my basement carpet. We put a rug over it. You had a solid plan. I have 3 older brothers. The 2 oldest put the youngest one's head through the wall. They tried to plaster it, and it looked horrible, so they put a poster over it. The 2 oldest told the youngest, "Shh, don't tell mom, it's a surprise for her." Mom gets home from work. Youngest screams, "Mom, we have a surprise for you. I'm gonna put you through a fucking wall." Getting pulled over by 3 police cars for doing 70 in a 45. My dad happened to call as I was talking with the officers. They asked to speak with him. After a few minimum they handed the phone back and said, "You better go home. That is going to be worse than the ticket we are giving you." That was a whole lot of yelling at home. You only got a ticket for doing 70 in a 45. They didn't actually get a speed reading on me. It was only estimated. One cop estimated I was doing 75 in a 65 highway, and in my mind I thanked him very much because I was really going 85. Mom woulda killed me. Edit. Dang. Got some Formula 1 drivers on Reddit. When I was about 8, my sister, 10, and I used to play around the neighborhood with other kids, but we had to be home by 8 p.m. or when the street lights came on, whichever came first. We had a watch on, and every evening my mum would make sure that we had one with us, and it was working. One evening we were 20 minutes late, and it was the second time that week. If we were late twice in a week, we weren't allowed to go out the rest of the week. My sister and I were talking by the back garden gate, making up excuses why we were late and making sure we were both on the same page in case she questioned us. We opened the gate to go inside and my mum was standing on the other side of the gate, arms folded. That was a life flashed before my eyes moment. A friend and I did this upon sneaking back into the house. We thought we made it, slid in through the dark house without waking the dog, eased my normally cranky bedroom door, opened. We both slipped in, latched it quietly, and turned on the light, saying fuck yeah, we did it. So we live in it, a story colonial. My parents are away on vacation. I'm in the yard and tossing a baseball up in the air and catching it, just a 9-year-old entertaining myself. I think to myself, hey, let's loft it onto the first split level roof and then it'll roll off and I'll catch it. Second toss, crash, shatter sister's window. Grandma was babysitting. Grandma reported, I was smoked. Your grandma snitched on you? She sang like a canary. When I came home to tell them that my girlfriend was pregnant for Thanksgiving of my freshman year of college. Turkey wasn't the only thing stuffed that year. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. I will be able to deliver better quality videos with your support.